What's up, everybody? Jed Johnson here from dieselcrew.com. Of course, you know they call me Napalm Brother. This is day 12 in the 31 days of Q&A. And today the question comes from Joe Waite. And it says, by the way, Joe Waite is one of my coaching clients. He's really kicking ass on thick bar lately. Proud to have him aboard. Proud to work with him. He's doing a great job. He says he has a question. Lifting the inch dumbbell was once considered nearly impossible. In the last 20 to 30 years, more and more people have lifted it, but it's still considered a world-class lift. So, you know, what he's saying is it used to be considered impossible, the unliftable dumbbell, but now it's world-class. With proper coaching, do you think the average man or even woman is capable of lifting it? Okay, so a few things. First off, the number of inch dumbbells that existed in the world when I first got into this, I mean, I probably knew of like 10. There were probably a lot more than that, but I probably knew of like 10 back in like 2003, okay? I've sold 10 this year, all right, 20 years later. So we're in a position now where more and more people are being exposed to inch dumbbells. It used to be the only time you saw an inch dumbbell was on a picture or video online for the first few years. Then the only time you'd see it in person is at some kind of a Arnold Classic or other expo. Or if you knew a grip guy that was in your area and you could drive and you could go try it. So they are not as rare as they used to be. We're also at a point where there's more people doing grip than ever before. There's more people doing strongman than ever before. Probably there's more people doing powerlifting than ever before. And if you look at that community of strength training individuals, it's probably just bigger than it ever has been before, I would say. So when you take that into consideration, plus the fact that there's more inch dumbbells around, you've got more opportunity for people to give it a try. And mathematically, you're going to have more people lifting inch dumbbells because of that. If you consider that I sell them along with Steve Slater, we have a partnership. Jason Adamski, I believe, still sells them. Up until very recently, I know that Jake Salaney sold them, and I know that Nathan Hall sells them now. Strength Shop sells an inch dumbbell that has a much longer handle, so it's not considered the same thing. But what you have there is like 5 or 6 manufacturers that are pumping these out, you know, with pretty good consistency. So they're getting filtrated throughout the whole entire world. So when you're at an expo and you're walking around, oh, there's an inch dumbbell. Well, you probably don't have chalk. It's probably been touched by 1,000 people with greasy ass fingers. So when you go over and try to lift it cold, the chances of you lifting it is pretty slim. So then you say, yeah, I saw that thing, man. That was really hard to lift. And I can do 200 pounds on a rolling thunder. I thought for sure I'd be able to do that. Well, is it because you weren't strong enough to lift it? Or is it because no warm-up, greasy fingers, you haven't slept in 3 days, you know, all that stuff? Is that a bigger factor than you realize? So because so many people have missed, there's a lot of people out there that say, oh, that's impossible. That's incredibly hard to do. The way I look at it is I think for a long time there's been a lot of people out there that probably could have lifted it with better warm-up, probably could have lifted it if it were cleaner, probably could have lifted it with chalk, that just they weren't able to lift it that particular day because the conditions were just so bad and set up so badly against them in that situation. And I think there's a lot of people that missed that probably could have lifted that inch dumbbell. Now you go back and you say, those people were probably strong enough to lift it. They probably could have done it under different circumstances. Well, what about the other people that didn't lift it and maybe everything was optimized. Were they just a little bit away? Did they kind of crack it off the floor? If you can crack it off the floor with a couple months of training, maybe 6 months of training, you can probably lift it. So that's why I have always said the best way to lift the inch dumbbell is to own an inch dumbbell. I just think that between the marketing, we'll say, by Thomas Inch of his unliftable dumbbell and how that caught on, especially like within the last 5 years, there's a lot of content out there that is labeling the inch dumbbell the unliftable dumbbell. A lot of times you tell somebody that something is unliftable, doesn't matter how strong they are, they're probably not going to lift it. So you get into their psyche, into their mindset, and you infiltrate that way, they're not going to lift it. But if you walk them through a series of smaller feats and you really pump them up, I think that can have a lot to do with success on lifting the inch. A lot goes into it, but I think for a long time there's been a lot of people who had the potential to lift the inch dumbbell if they would have had one within 6 months if they were able to train it. So has it gone from unliftable to world class? I think what it was, I don't think it was ever unliftable. I think just a lot of people failed to lift it when they first tried it. They bought into that propaganda and they went with that. And they kind of conceded in their mind and said, I can't lift that. That's unliftable. Only truly strong and gifted strength athletes are going to pick that up. Or you got to have extremely huge hands to pick that up. Sure, that is a big asset to you. There's no doubt about it. I'm not saying that that's not the case, but just because someone has 9-inch hands doesn't mean they're going to lift the inch dumbbell. My brother-in-law has bigger hands than me, and he can't even come close to lifting that inch dumbbell because his hands are not strong and he is not strong. Great guy, love him to death, but he can't even come close. I have a cousin-in-law, is that a word? So the guy that's married to one of my older cousins, he is like 6'8". His hands are a full inch bigger than mine. Mine are 8.5. He can't lift it either. So it's not a given that you're going to lift this thing just because your hands are enormous. You still got to have a level of strength. And there's technique involved in lifting the inch, depending on your personal strengths and weaknesses, limitations and gifts that you can go along with or stay away from certain parts of the lift in order to lift it better. So if we can go on with the final part of this question, with proper coaching, do you think the average man or even woman is capable of lifting it? No, I still don't. I don't think the average man would be able to lift the inch dumbbell even with training. I think the average person has small, weak hands. It's just rare to run across people who have just naturally strong hands that haven't been focused on building grip strength. You run into people that have manual labor jobs. They become very good at grip training. They might be able to lift some impressive weights. They're still not going to lift the inch. So I think it still is a world-class lift, even with more inches out there. And just going to check the camera real quick. And it's still a world-class feat. We are not going to see like average men just walking up and picking up the inch, not knowing what it is. And for women, I think same case. They have to be very gifted, put in time, and really go about it the right way in order to lift it. Still world class, still something where it's still world class, and still we're going to see more and more people lifting them because there's more and more out there, and there's more and more people that are training them, and more people are getting strong. So I hope that all makes sense and is clear. If not, leave a comment below for more detail, I guess, more explanation. And naturally, if you have something to weigh in on this, leave a comment below. Give it one of these. Be sure to subscribe. We've got more coming your way. All the best in your training.